It is officially the end of 2024, and if you ask me, it really just means that college track and field is going to take center stage for the better part of the next few months. But that said, you already know that 2024 was an Olympic year, which makes it incredibly special for the track and field community, and that includes me, because this channel has grown exponentially from January up until now, and the only reason that happened is because of you. Yes, you specifically keep watching these videos, because I love track and field, specifically at the college level, but I also love sprinting in general, including when the pros do it. And yes, that does include the Olympics. I do tell you in every single one of my videos that you don't have to agree with me. That is what the comment section is for, and yes, I do try to read them all. But no, I flat out don't have the time to actually respond to every single comment, especially if the video is watched by a whole bunch of people, and the comment section continues to pop off as a result. For that reason, this video is very different, because I figured that since we're closing the book on 2024 anyway, I should take an opportunity to acknowledge your comments, not just the ones that I can get around to typing a response out to. Actually acknowledge them and give them legitimate responses. So that's what I'm about to do. So I apologize in advance for several reasons. One, I don't know how long this is going to take while I go through the comments, and I'm going to give you the rules in a moment. But beyond that, I am aware that I'm probably going to say something that is likely going to upset some people. And yes, I am willing to accept the consequences, because when I read these comments, the ones that disagree with me, I'm going to respond and do it the exact same way that I would if I was on the Finish Line television show talking to Anderson. I'm just going to tell you what I'm really thinking. And if you don't like it, well, hey, that's what the comment section is for. It still works on this video as well. Before I go any further, I do need to make this point clear. I respect everyone's opinions in the comments, but the ones that I actually take seriously are the informed ones. So here we go. Focusing on all the videos from this channel that you all chose to watch the most this year, I'm going to respond to at least one comment from each of them. But I do have to first start with some of the most recent videos I posted. I'm not going to read the entire comment out loud, because there's no point. I'm just going to put it on the screen anyway. I'm going to maybe explain a little bit about what that person was saying, and then get into my response. And it all starts with the Gout situation. So let's get into it. Because apparently, I have earned a reputation, at least by some people, of being a Gout hater. In this particular comment, I was accused of suggesting that Gout should have arrived at the age of 16 by now, and should have been winning everything, but I'm pretty sure that they really meant was me pointing out that at the World Junior Championships in 2024, he didn't win the 100, which I don't believe he was entered in, and he didn't win the 200 either. They also chose to point out that Gout is still developing, that I should be taking that into account. This comment is one of quite a few that once again think of me as a Gout hater. So I'm going to respond to all of you, including this person. 1. I never said anything about whether Gout arrived or didn't arrive. If I remember what I said, and I doubled down on it because I made more than one Gout video, he is an amazing talent whom I want to see succeed at the highest level. The delusion that I am frustrated with, that we are seemingly thinking that as an internet community, calling him the next Usain Bolt and building up insane hype around it, because the title of the next Usain Bolt is insane hype, but we ain't really never seen anything like this. When I say seen it, I'm not just talking about the clock. I mean the level of attention, the amount of videos, and the number of views they seem to get. All of that is the Gout situation. When you are 16, or 17 for that matter, you have to understand Arian Knighton, who we all know was a sprinting phenom, really wasn't taking track and field seriously till like the age of 16, and he still ran 20.3. There are athletes who don't run track at all, who show up at 17 years old, and they're breaking 21 in the 200. I know that for a fact, because it definitely happened on the SCA national list, people who I've worked with personally. All that I'm saying is we don't really know who all the fast athletes are going to be in the future. More importantly, when we project out what somebody is going to do, we've done this in the past. So if you see the two sides of the logic, one part is there will be athletes whom we don't know about, who aren't taking track seriously yet, who will be competing. They're going to be in the machine for Gout to beat. And the other is, if it were so simple to just add on a whole bunch of extra speed, like, oh, just fix your start and you'll be this much faster, then other athletes who were insanely fast while they were younger would have done it. We have looked at so many athletes, including Sha'Carri Richardson right now. People have always accused her of not having a great start. They said that when she was a freshman in college at LSU. That was in 2019. We're in 2024, and what is the same thing that people are still accusing her of? Her start is not as good as it should be. If she would just fix the start, then she'd be running whatever time you think she should be. All of what I'm getting at is I want to see him succeed, fully expect he's going to be on the world stage. I believe he's going to be in world level finals relatively soon. But winning at the highest level isn't even what he's being asked to do. People are calling him the next Usain Bolt, and they don't mean Usain Bolt in 2007. They don't mean Usain Bolt in 2004 when you didn't even notice he was there. They mean Usain Bolt in 2008, 2009, 2011, and 2012. Those are the years that they have in their mind above all else. For that matter, they're still thinking about 2013 to 2016, where he still wasn't really losing anything. They want to see him way out in the front of the race, running times that only he can run. Since he has retired, nobody has run close to the times he was giving us. Just being honest. I am a Gout supporter. I just don't think it's fair, especially for a junior level athlete, to pile that level of expectation on top of him. Because winning isn't even what he has to do to make good on that investment. He has to win, and then win again, and do it at the highest level, running times that nobody else in the world can run. And even if he does that much, he's still going to be disrespected if those times don't equal or surpass what Usain Bolt was doing. We don't want to see him win a whole bunch of gold medals in 9.65. At least not when you call him the next Usain Bolt and that's the end of the career. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Moving on to a recent episode of The Finish Line that I posted. Myself and Anderson were talking about the Tara Davis-Woodhall versus Michael Johnson situation, which essentially is his statements about Grand Slam track trying to save the sport, but maybe not being able to save the field part. The comment that I was asked was, I guess, related to the conversation that we were having around what casual track fans are and how you bring them into the sport. I don't know if they were serious or sarcastic, but I'm going to take you seriously for a moment. Because the question was, what makes somebody a casual track fan anyway? Specifically, what is the line between casual and being more than that? I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that if you're watching track and field content on this platform and letting me talk to you for this length of time, like actually made it to this moment in the video, you're probably not a casual track and field fan. You're in the legitimate status. Casual track fans, they don't mind watching track and field when it is accessible and they understand it. That's exactly what the Olympics are. And the problem with the sport right now is that, for the most part, the only thing that a casual fan can stumble into, like not put much effort, it just shows up on TV and it kind of makes sense when they're watching it. The World Championships exist to like a much lesser degree, but they're not really taken that seriously. But the Olympics, casual track fans like that. The friends that I have who are casual track fans, they know about Usain Bolt, they might know a few different events and maybe something about what a good time is. They don't know a whole lot much more than that, and they only really know whoever's in the front of the race. Like, the name Julian Alfred only makes sense to them because she was in the front of the race while they were watching at the Olympics, specifically with Sha'Carri behind her, who they thought was supposed to be in the front of the race, because all of the rhetoric they had heard up until that moment said she was the woman who was going to win it. Casual fans exist for just about every sport, but track and field specifically struggles to get their product in front of people when they might actually stumble into it and in a package that they actually understand, which is why we struggle to get the attention of casual track fans, if you're asking me. But if you're new here, I want to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. And I'm Coach Rob, the founder of SCArecruiting.com, where I rank the best track and field recruits across the entire nation. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section, because I try to read them all. I've also covered the recent challenges that are facing college track and field on this channel. Long story short, if you really haven't been paying attention, revenue sharing in college athletics is not necessarily a good thing for track and field, because you can't really share revenue when people don't make a lot of revenue, like track and field. That said, this particular comment says that college track and field is really not that expensive for an athletic department to fund. And they make the assumption or make the statement that maybe we should break football and basketball away from the rest of the athletic department so that they can kind of do their own thing, and then we could run sports like track and field without having to worry about all that confusion. So here's my response. That only sounds good in theory, because there's two things going on here. One, that the whole college track and field is not that hard to fund. Like, it doesn't cost that much money, which is partially true, but I got to address it. And then the other half is basketball and football should just be put off on the side, and other sports, including track, should just be funded with some other structure. In Division I, which is all we're really talking about, well, Division I sports, to answer the first part, are supposed to produce revenue. And if we're honest, college track and field has failed to do that consistently for the last 30 years and beyond, while spending in college sports has gone up and up and up. And notice I said sports, I didn't just say football and basketball, because even though they're spending more money, yes, they're also getting more revenue. But other teams have to spend more money in this new model, the model we've been trending towards over the last 2 decades. And track and field just haven't joined them in making any more money. So if you think about it, athletic directors are looking at their budgets now, where they're going to have to find more money to pay athletes, like revenue share pay athletes, than they've ever had to do in their budgets. And when they look at it, they see a whole bunch of teams, but then they can find one of them that costs money and doesn't make any money. And for a lot of these schools, that team, the track team, doesn't win in their conference, never wins in their conference, has no chance of competing on a national scale. What do you think those athletic directors are thinking they should do with that budget line right now? So that's on one end. We just got to be honest that that's the discussion being had behind closed doors. They're focusing on dollars and cents, dollars that go in and dollars that go out. That's a loaded topic for the record, and I'm definitely going to get into it during another video. But the other side of this, that we should just break football and basketball away from the athletic department, in D1, at the highest levels, doesn't really work out that well. And it comes back to the whole money problem, that up until now, the money that's generated in those sports is used to fund the rest of the athletic department. Simply put, the soccer team, baseball teams, softball teams, lacrosse, and yes, we're talking about track and field as well, basically wouldn't exist if some of that money didn't come their way, specifically for the scope of how we do them. So either A, we severely downsize every other sports team, so much so it's going to more or less look like Division III athletics at best. That's what's going to happen if you put football and basketball all the way on their other side by themselves. But the reason why it didn't really make that much sense to do it, aside from the fact that there was no revenue share model in place, was which sports, to be honest, had the worst GPAs and APRs, academic progress rates, on campus? It was always football and men's basketball. No disrespect to just the men's basketball teams, but just being honest, that's more or less what it was for almost every campus. All the athletes for the programs that maybe didn't generate revenue, but also didn't get anywhere near as much scholarship money or perks on campus. Again, just being 100% honest. Track and field was at the top of that list, not getting much scholarship, definitely wasn't getting a whole lot of preferential treatment on campus either. Those athletes were bringing the GPAs and APRs up. So it was kind of like, you pull your weight on one end, make the money for the whole department. We'll pull our weight on another end and kind of keep us afloat academically so that, the whole thing doesn't get shut down. That's the system that we were in. And now we're trending somewhere else. And there will be a day of reckoning for the new system that we're headed to. In the short term, all the evidence doesn't seem to go anywhere else than that track and field teams will be on the chopping block. How many? I couldn't tell you, but it's definitely going to be more than one real soon. And at this very moment, let's revisit the FloTrack situation, because FloTrack is going to be taking over from NBC and Peacock to televise the Diamond League. And I did a video about it. This comment suggests that track and field shouldn't be behind a paywall. And I am inclined to agree. I know that Grand Slam track, for example, is going to probably release information relatively soon about their television deal. At least I hope so. I'm sure it can go in a bunch of different directions. And we are even seeing, I know Amazon and Netflix get involved in streaming out professional sports. But when we talk about paywall, I'm going to say something wild, and maybe I'm just reckless for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Because track and field doesn't get a whole lot of rotation, specifically in America, where I would like to see it, again, thinking about this market, whatever we do have with Pro Track that can be packaged for television fans, probably would do best on a platform that is a free streaming platform. Considering that Tubi TV has expanded, I don't know how much money they'd be able to put up for a deal, but if you could get them to even somewhere above $1 million for what a track and field product might be, again, I'm thinking about Grand Slam because they've only got 4 meets, that would be a pretty legitimate deal because you can get it in front of people and then you can renegotiate once you prove that people will watch it. All the people who want to see it can be driven over there. So now we don't have to pay. We just go to where we want to watch it when it's actually happening. And you can also catch new people over there because they don't really have a lot of live sports that air on those type of platforms yet. They've started experimenting with it, but they still don't have a lot of competition. So you can kind of get there first. But all the way back, long before the Olympics went down, Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone did run a 200-meter dash race at the LA Grand Prix where she won. The only problem was she wasn't supposed to because she was running against Abby Steiner, Brittany Brown, and Gabby Thomas in that race. And they all lost to her. Some of the comments did suggest that I was blowing it up to be way more than it should have been. One of the comments got very specific when it came to Abby Steiner and said that she was going to break the 22-second barrier at some point in the season. We now have hindsight that she didn't, and we also know she's been battling injuries for a while. But here's my whole thought on the whole situation. Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone is an amazing talent, a once-in-a-generation talent, who happens to run the 400 hurdles but doesn't have to. She ran the 200 and the 400 while she was in college at the NCAA Indoor Championships as a freshman. You want to know who else was a freshman at the NCAA Championships in the prelims or qualifying for the prelims that nobody noticed? Julian Alfred of St. Lucia. She was running for Texas all the way back then. If Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, from that moment till now, had focused on the 200 and the 400, how fast do you actually think she would be going? I'm just saying that to start this off. And what I'm really trying to point out is this. I understand training cycles very well, and I know that all of the pros are trying to peak for specific meets on the calendar. But in track and field, everybody's out there knowing that when you step to the line, your reputation is on the line as well. I really don't believe that any of the women who lost to Sydney in that race expected to lose it before the gun went off. And if you ask them, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't tell you, oh, I thought she was going to take it because where I'm at in my training cycles. So we out here making excuses for people who didn't make them for themselves. All of that is a very good segue to the Olympic 200-meter dash on the men's side. Because Letsile Teboho won the race, even though Noah Lyles was by all estimations the favorite. And the comment section did go off as a result. As far as I'm concerned, the video that I made was celebrating Letsile Teboho. but I didn't ignore the fact that he was racing against other people who are incredibly fast. When Noah Lyles' name gets brought up, specifically when it comes to the 200-meter dash, I'm going to say something. And I totally get that Lasila Taboho's talent is undeniable, that he went through something very tragic in regards to his family this past year, came back from that, probably one of the best stories that we had in all of sports for 2024. But it doesn't change the fact that Noah Lyles was supposed to win that 200-meter race. For anybody who's actually been watching track and field for the last 3 years, from 2022 up until that moment, he had never lost a race at that distance. More importantly, not only had he not lost a race, I don't believe he had ever even come off of a turn as anything else but the man in first place. Meaning halfway through the race he was winning and then kept on winning. You might have been close, but not ahead of him. In his Olympic 200-meter prelim, Olympic 200-meter semi, and the final, Noah Lyles was always not in front when he got through that turn. What that tells me is something was wrong with that man. Because if he showed up running like himself, the same self he was in any other race on the calendar for over 2 years, it wouldn't have looked like that. It doesn't take away from what Lasila did to acknowledge that his competitor was not 100%. Noah stepped on the line, and when he did, his reputation was on the line as well. That loss will count. It just is what it is. We can't give him credit for a gold he didn't win. But I'm also acknowledging that going forward into 2025, if Noah decides that he wants to run the 200 seriously and is able to get to the line at the World Championship final healthy, I'm still picking him to win that race. I'm just saying, that's what I'm doing. And speaking of Olympic athletes who went on to shock the world, Masai Russell winning the 100 hurdles has to go down on that list. This particular comment does seem to suggest that Masai essentially told us what she was going to do and then went out there and did it. She won Olympic gold, regardless of who was doubting her. I haven't followed enough of her interviews to know if that's exactly what happened, but the interviews I did hear show that going into 2024, it was a very challenging season for her. Her sponsorship situation and everything else, as far as her actual running sponsor, was actually up in the air for a while, even though she eventually landed with Nike. But the only thing I have to say in response is not just congratulations to what she accomplished, but if we're 100% honest, if you ran that Olympic final 5 times in a row, I'm not sure that she's going to win even 2 of those 5 races. It was incredibly close, the race she was in, and there was a whole lot of competition, even from Team USA, as well as the rest of the world. Masai Russell, in college, never won an NCAA championship, and she stayed there the entire time she was in college. The entire time she had eligibility. She is an amazing talent who just had not won on the biggest stages. So for her to come out, first year out of college, and win Olympic gold, yes, she was never supposed to be that. Definitely not in that moment. But hey, that's why we won the races, and that's what makes her special right now. And while we're still on the subject of the Olympics, I did an entire series breaking down what happened in the heats for the 100 and the 200 on both the men and the women's sides. Specifically for the 100, I decided to do a win gauge calculator in order to look at all of the heat sheet results and then put them kind of on a standard so we could get some lens to evaluate them. Some people seemed to get what I was going for. I wasn't invalidating the races that actually happened, but I'm going to respect what the comment section had to say, because some people felt that focusing on the conversions and the win is kind of missing the point, because we should be looking at how comfortable people were and, winning the heat and everything else. So, hey, let's get into it. The Olympics are over now, and Kishane Thompson is not the Olympic gold medalist. He was close, but he ain't. And let's clarify, The narrative that was shopped to us, at least where I am living, is we saw footage of Kishane Thompson run 9.77 seconds recorded. And we were told that he was holding back in that race. And then, when we get to the Olympics, forget about the heats for a moment, the semifinal, he didn't run faster than 9.77 seconds. And once again in the final, he didn't run a new PR as well. So the entire logic that athletes can run a 100-meter race at the highest level, and I'm saying this as somebody who used to sprint in college, definitely not at that level, but I do understand what it means to run qualifying rounds. It is nearly impossible to run a race, no matter who you're competing against, if those people are legitimate athletes, without giving very real output. So when people suggest that, okay, somebody won their heat in the Olympics where they shut it down at 60 meters, I mean, you could say that from watching it on the camera, but the athlete who was running was putting in effort. The thing about Usain Bolt that people like to use as a comparison note, this is where I'll meet you halfway. Bolt always had to run the first half of a race. That's just how it was, because this is sprinting. And by 70 meters and 100, he might have built up enough momentum where he no longer had to try to hold on to that momentum. But that was him. That idea might somewhat move to another athlete, but it doesn't mean that had he kept running through the line, that the time would be that much faster. It just means that holding onto the momentum didn't require that much effort. So if Kishane Thompson runs like 9.9 high in a 100-meter heat, if he kept running through the line, it wasn't going to be 9.6, maybe like 9.91, 9.92, 9.93, something like that, maybe. People generally get faster through the rounds. Your body continues to fire off, you get sharper. It's kind of why we run rounds. Otherwise, we would just pick the fastest people, throw them on the track and say, run one race, and that's the end of it. The rounds are part of the competition. Not just eliminating people out, but actually getting everybody to a place where they can give their best race. In Noah Lyles' case, he got better in every single round that he ran. And he didn't win his heat or his semifinal in the 100. And he barely won his final in the 100, as we all seem to remember. The same way where there was a world where Kishane Thompson could have won the Olympic gold medal in the 100 for 2024, there also exists a world where Noah Lyles doesn't make the 100-meter final at all, specifically off the performances we were getting. But hey, that is why we run the races. The heats give us a good idea of who's going to make it through the semis. And for the most part, if you took care of business in the heats, you were there in the final. And everybody who was there in the final was right there with a chance to win the race. It was like a tenth of a second separating everybody. And I can't let this moment pass without addressing the one video where everybody seemed to be in agreement. Because after the men's 4x1 for Team USA, and yes, I said it that way, at the Olympics, I was frustrated, and I made a video about it with all of the people who actually commented. For the most part, I did not see anyone who disagreed with the take that I had, because I tried to state the facts as I always do. And this time, I guess everybody saw it happened before their eyes. Team USA in the 4x1, for the men specifically, do have a whole bunch of talent, perhaps more talent than anybody else in the world, if you're focusing on the clock and just the sheer number of people who can put fast times on the board. But for whatever the reason, we don't have Olympic gold medals, or for that matter, Olympic medals of any color to show for it for the better part of the past 2 decades now. It just is what it is. I sincerely hope that changes going forward, and America has the better part of 4 years to prepare to fix it. That said, we are all in agreement. That is the sense that I'm getting. That we want to see this change, even though we just don't expect it to. So Happy New Year to you, and if you liked watching something like this on my channel, then let me know in the comment section below. Because maybe I'll do things like this more often. Maybe on a month-to-month basis or something like that. Either way, I do try to read all the comments. even if I can't type out a response to each of them. But be aware that I always notice when you do. In the sport of track and field, confidence is everything, because when you win, that is just the moment when everybody else finds out what you already knew to be true, that fast is a lifestyle. Get your Fast is a Lifestyle track and field gear at scarecruiting.com/shop or use the link in the description below. It's a huge support to me and this channel, so I can continue to make you more content like this. And remember, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.